Welcome to Master the Game. I am Juice, and today I am talking to D&D Elise. Really excited. We've been trying to line up our schedules for a couple weeks now, and with that, I'm going to let her introduce herself. And so take it away, Elise.
My name is Elise. You'll see me as D&D Elise on Twitter and Facebook. I am a DM's Guild and drive-through RPG writer.
Oh, nice. So how many products have you written before?
I think I'm around like 10 or so, I think Through the Veil will be my sixth hardcover coming out. Everything else is PDF. Um,
So what is Through the Veil? Is that so? You said that's your biggest one, or that was your first one? What was that?
so Through the Veil Tales of the Feywild. It's about to release soon. I just ordered the print copy for review to make sure like everything looks good. That's coming out in the next month or two, hopefully. Um, it is the first project that I led,
Okay.
and it is Feywild themed D&D 5e content. We have 10 adventures that you can use as a DM to kind of introduce the Feywild into your campaign, and it can be like a one-time step into the Feywild, or you can use it to create whatever world that you want. We have adventures from tiers 1 through 4,
Okay.
so that you can fit it into whatever level of campaign you have going on. And we have more volumes coming out. Volume 2 is in production right now. It's going through consistency editing. That will be Feywild themed magic items, weapons, adventuring gear, trinkets, etc. And we have some other volumes coming out in the future as well.
So how big is this book going to be?
I
It
think
sounds pretty
it's
big.
Yeah, so it's about 120 pages plus, I think. I'd have to look at the PDF to know for sure.
Sure.
But we have almost all custom art and maps done for this. Demille's Wondrous Works is our map lead.
Okay.
She did an amazing job, like working with all the artists to kind of get like consistent looking maps and color schemes going. So it's very pretty. Like the inside is very nice to look at. Our
Nice.
layout team did a great job.
So you do you have a big team that you work with on these, or?
Yes. So for volume 1, we had well over 40 creators involved, everything from editing, layout, art, maps, writers. Volume 2, I think we have over 40 writers by itself. And I think we have well over like 10 artists on that volume, plus other team members. So we also have a really large team for that. I think part of it is I'm used to being on a big team. So I originally came from Hit Record, which is kind of like it's a community of artists and writers that kind of work and rework each other's work and add to create one big production. So I'm kind of used to working on really large teams because of that. So I
Right.
think that's why I was able to comfortably let this project get that big. So,
Gotcha. That
mhm.
makes sense. Yeah, it's funny because I've talked to a few different developers and things like that, and a lot of the people I talk to who do like DM's Guild stuff or Drive Through RPG don't
Mhm.
they try to do it all on their own. I'm talking like
That's
real small teams.
hard.
Yeah,
Yeah.
and then they'll like contract certain things out. But then like I'll
Yeah.
talk to someone who works for like Green Ronin or something, and they're like, "Yeah, we got a huge team of people we
Hmm.
call," and then it's like we don't double book them when they're working on this or that, and it's
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
it's kind of interesting the process that goes into that.
Mhm.
How did you get started with doing this in the first place?
I was kind of like involved in the D&D community. I've done odds and end podcasts, and one of the odds and ends projects was interviewing the D&D community.
Yeah.
And I was interviewing a bunch of DM's Guild writers, and one of the groups on a panel was Michael Watt from Pyromaniac Press.
Okay.
He invited me to write for Undermountain Lost Chambers, so I wrote my first 2 adventures with them, and they kind of showed me the ropes. And I've been writing content ever since, and I'm
Nice.
still doing projects with Micah. So yeah.
That's awesome. And you just love doing it. That's not your full time job, right?
Oh no, like for a daytime job, I'm project manager and a tech writer. So this is
Nice.
like secondary thing. I do it because I love it. It's fun. I love gaming. I've been a lot of fun gamer.
My
I work
wife's
with
a
really cool
project
people.
manager, so that's awesome actually. She's
Thanks.
she used to do like business data analyst or whatever, and now she's a project manager, and yeah, it's awesome. She loves her job, so luckily she
Very
can do
cool.
it full time.
Sounds like a cool
Uh,
lady.
oh, she is. She'll actually be on here tonight. Tonight we're doing a
Oh,
live
nice.
stream. at about 9 p.m. Eastern. So basically after this, and she'll be painting miniatures. We do little shows here and there together. She's what got me into D&D specifically.
You have a very cool life.
I know, right? I'm pretty lucky. But yeah, so enough about her. So we it's funny. So when you got into doing this, what were some of the big hurdles for you to try and publish to DM's Guild in particular?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So I've been doing this a little over a year. So November was my 1 year doing this. So I've been learning so much. I've learned everything from like, really sticking to the D&D style guide. And oh God, I don't know where to start. And I've learned a lot running projects. So there's a lot of lessons learned with Volume 1. So the Feywild, this is the first time I ever led anything. So I took in a lot of feedback. So we've improved editing. I've actually changed onboarding. So I don't onboard everyone at the same time because people kind of fall off the wagon or they get busy when it's their turn to work on stuff. So I step onboarding so artists don't come on until there's content that needs art. And that has been super effective. And
so do you just slip them the entry so that they can use that as inspiration, or how does that work?
So for Volume 2, I pretty much I read through a lot of the submissions and I just kind of use my gut to be like, oh, this would make cool art. I'd love to see what the art would be for this and that. I create a spreadsheet and I'll assign some for full page, half page text fill. And artists can go in there and pick and choose as many as they want to work on. Oh, cool. And so then we hand that off to layout and they start plugging in the things. So
right. Yeah. Interesting. Yeah, I one day, my big bucket list item is I want to create my own setting book. Nice. But, it's not like to make money or anything. I just want to be able to be like, here, players, all the players in my game. I mean, I'll put it up if I ever finish it. But really, it's a bucket list item for me.
You should publish. It's fun.
I don't have confidence in my writing ability.
Just put stuff out there. It's a learning experience. Just get stuff out there and start working with people, and you'll spread yourself.
That's what people tell me all the time. They're like, just put it out there, and I've been motivated to write more because of that. I'm actually editing a friend's product right now.
Oh, very cool.
That he's been working on, and his is inspired by Fantasy Flight Star Wars, but it's a Wild West thing. It's really cool. I love when he writes new stuff on it. I think he's 130 pages in, and every now and then he'll just send it and be like, hey, read this over, make sure it makes sense. I'm like, all right.
Oh, it's good. It's a good experience.
Yeah, it's fun.
You dip your feet in.
Yeah, and for me, it's just a fun thing to do, So I'm like, hey, sneak peek. Yeah. So the Feywild. So is that so you're writing about the Feywild now? Is that what you've always written about, or do you mix it up?
No. So I've written all kinds of stuff. I've done history-based stuff. So for Encaged, I did Egyptian underworld themed adventure level 10. Right now, I'm working on Tartarus, which is Greek underworld. Nice. I've contributed to the Great Dale campaign guide, which is a northern, kind of like a far-off land, like the mysterious East. So I'm pretty diverse. I like taking on new challenges, so I'll write for just about any sort of background. Yeah. I did the Feywild because I felt like there was a gap. They have a book in 4E, and there's not a ton else outside of that. There's little blurbs and more kind of stuff like that about the Fey, but I wanted something bigger, and I wanted adventures and monsters and good stuff to kind of fill that gap. And I just love the realm. It's a place it defies time and physics, and it's just this strange, mysterious place, and there's just so much potential for a really fun campaign out to the Feywild. So that was also part of the allure of my first project.
Yeah, so. That's cool. Yeah, I'll be honest, I don't know a lot about the Feywild. I've never ran anything in the Feywild. I'll use Fey creatures on the material plane, but I stay away from a lot of the planar stuff for the most part. I just haven't read up enough on it to again feel comfortable even running stuff there. But yeah, it's always fascinating to me. I like to read up on those things, but it feels like it's hard to find a good amount of information about any of the other planes. Like it's like I'm
Yeah,
running
yeah.
Descent into Avernus right now, and you know, like yes, there's stuff in there about the Nine Hells, right? But it's like I always want more. I'm like, I don't feel like I know enough still to just do my own thing, you know?
Yeah, I end up dipping into older editions, like because they have
Yeah,
like the manual of the planes,
yeah,
and like different supplements from where you can get some information. But I
mhm.
think at some point, some of it's kind of left open ended to kind of fill in those gaps. But yeah, for 5e, they haven't put a bunch of not a lot of planar, not a lot of Feywild stuff yet. So maybe in the future they'll put
Yeah,
something out. We'll see.
yeah, and Dark Sun. I haven't
Oh,
read
Dark Sun's
Dark
cool.
Sun, but everything I've heard, it sounds really cool.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Dark
please
Sun
put that out.
Spelljammer would be cool. But yeah, I'd
Yeah.
I'd kill for some Planescape. I love planar
Oh yeah.
worlds. They're just so weird and interesting and lots of cool saves they have to
Yeah.
do. And
I almost bought the
yeah.
box set for that. I never did though. It would be secondhand because I've only been into D&D since 2010.
Mm,
For about
okay.
13 years before that, I played Palladium books, you know, Heroes Unlimited, Rifts, things like that.
Okay.
And like I said, I met my wife in 2010, and like 4 months later, when we moved in together, she
Mhm.
had D&D books, and so I was like, oh, okay, like, well, I got these, let's do this, you know. And
It's
so that's
awesome.
what happened. And she hadn't played in a few years because of some
Yeah.
bad experiences with some college kids, but
Ooh,
uh,
good stuff. Well, I'm
yeah,
glad you both got back into it. That's
yeah,
awesome.
me too, me too.
It's a
So,
good
and
time.
I've upped her nerddom quite a bit. Um, so Planescape, that's where it's got like all the different like doors to different places, correct?
Yeah, it's kind of like different planes. So if you think of, I really like the setup of like the cosmic wheel.
Okay.
So you have like your good planes, Mount Celestia, Ysgard. You got your lower planes like Pandemonium and the Nine Hells, which are like horrible and terrible.
Right.
And there's just something weird and interesting about each one. Like Ysgard is like unending battles constantly going on, and Pandemonium is like all these caverns and there's weird screaming voices and wind. And I just love how strange it is. I love the idea of like mystery and just not knowing everything,
Yeah.
because I think that adds value to your game and keeps their players on their toes, especially if they've been playing D&D for a while. um,
Right. Do you currently have a campaign that you're running?
Not currently, due to time
What?
constraints.
With as
I'm so
creative as you
busy.
are?
DM skill writing is like taking over my life.
Yeah.
Before uh, in the past, I moved across country, but I did have a Sea of Fallen Stars campaign going on, and I handed off the baton to someone else. So that campaign's still going, even though I'm not there
Oh,
a year
no.
later. But I do playtesting. Sometimes I run DM skilled one shots, but I'm just a lot of my free time is like a mountain of like
Yeah.
writing projects because so much comes my way and like I want to take all of them on, but I
That,
can only pick so many. And
that's why
so
you finished
yeah.
10 projects in the last year.
Yeah, so I stay busy, and I got to make sure to like have time for my kid, and I got to
Yep.
work and do my day job. So yeah,
Yeah.
so I do one shots.
I get that. I completely get that. I'm trying to be a better father and more involved and less D&D focused during the day.
Or you just
uh,
bring your kids into D&D. Like we make maps together, we paint minis together. Like I took
nice.
them to go pick out some minis. Like
Yeah.
yeah,
My kids want to do that.
yeah,
So, I've thought about it, but minis kind of they get pricey. And my daughter, when she
bargain
paints,
bin.
it's like 3 seconds later. Yeah, 3 seconds later, she's like, "Okay, next." And like it's like you didn't even paint it yet. Like,
Yeah, I
yeah.
take my kid to like they have this really great bargain bins, like $2 for a mini. So I prime them for him, and
Mhm.
then like I give him a little palette, and I let him pick out some colors, but I don't give him my paints so he isn't like going crazy. And oh, he has a
Yeah.
great time. He loves it when he sees me doing it. He wants to do it, and it keeps him occupied, and he
Yeah.
gets excited to show it off to grandma. And
Yeah.
yeah,
I
it's fun.
speaking of minis, I got like minis sitting right here that we're not sure what we're gonna paint tonight. I'm not gonna paint. My
Yeah, I'm
wife
base
is.
coating this guy.
Oh, nice. Yeah. Yeah, I have like boxes of minis and like they're organized by what I want right now. What I want over here is for a future campaign that we're like I have Descent into Avernus like themed almost minis. Like I need these in case we get back together instead of playing online. Like yeah, it's crazy. I'm
Yeah,
obsessed.
it's my new hobby. It's my quarantine hobby. I was on an interview with Kerry Jordan, one of my friends in the DMs Guild, and he's like, oh, "You have unpainted minis? What?"
Who
So
doesn't?
they motivated me to start painting and gave me super great tips. And
Yeah,
yeah, it's relaxing. It's fun. I like it.
that's cool. Yeah, I speaking of getting your kids into like D&D and stuff, my daughter, we streamed our second 1 hour game today.
Aw,
I
yay.
just do like basic stuff. I'm like, all right, here's a map. Like you've picked your mini. Like here we go. Let's just do some combat stuff. I'm talking,
That's
whatever.
awesome.
And
Sorry,
she's like, every time
man.
she's like, oh, it's so great.
That's really good. Yeah,
Yeah,
it's great to see kids get excited about gaming.
yeah. My 5-year-old, he can't sit still long enough yet. It's just not possible. Like he wants to so bad, and I want to do it, and I just, like if you sit down and he's like, well, all right, and hits your, minis across the table, it's just not gonna work.
Yeah. Yeah. You just gotta draw maps together and stuff. That's what I do with my kid. I'm like, what's on the map? Where are we going on the map? Here, roll some dice. So I do
Oh,
a kind of like a kid's version
yeah.
for, and then eventually he gets bored and
That would be a cool
yeah.
project to work on, like a D&D parental tips guide or something, like a little 5-page thing of activities you can do with your kid. That'd be
Oh,
cool.
maybe I could one day. Yeah. Maybe I'll put that on the list of to dos.
I'm
So
sure it's pretty long. So on your list of to-dos, speaking of which, do you already know what you're going to work on next?
oh so I have a very fresh new thing. The other night, I was on a panel with Michael Watt and Drew Dwarves, Demille, and Harry, and we have decided we're going to do a book of gelatinous cubes for fun. So we got the ball rolling on that. We have another project we already want to do together, but we'll keep that quiet for now until that gets into production. I gotta write a dungeon for Grim Press. I have a super top secret industry gig thing that I got turned in finally.
That's cool.
I got really amazing feedback from it too. So like I feel like I need to rewrite everything I ever did now. So I'm trying to improve my writing game now.
Yep.
And
Are you allowed to say what company that is at least?
I can't.
Oh,
But when if mine makes the playtest cut and comes out, I'll shout it from the rooftops. It'll be really exciting. So
that's
I'm
awesome.
fingers crossed.
Good luck and congratulations.
Thank you. Yeah.
So, do you have like a goal to do this full time, or are you always thinking that this will just be a freelance side gig?
If a company wants to hire me and pays well, I wouldn't mind working as a game designer. With the DM's Guild, you just don't make enough to make it a full-time job. It's pretty much kind of like pocket change, and you do it because you love it. Because you definitely, I'm not quite sure. I make like minimum wage even, like
Right.
doing this stuff.
Right.
But you do it because you love it. You love working with people. You love and it's rewarding to get your content out there.
Yes.
Nothing feels better than getting like a hardcover in your hands. It's just like,
Yeah.
I can't believe this is happening. Yeah, because I come from a teeny tiny town, 3 stoplights. I grew up in Missouri. And
okay.
I worked at GameStop and during undergraduate. I never thought I'd be a published game designer one day ever. So I love it. It's rewarding. I love gaming conventions. I
Right.
love getting to participate in that too.
Do you set up a booth at game conventions and sell your products?
So I've been doing a lot of virtual booths this year
cool.
since the COVID-19 pandemic. So
Yeah.
I've gotten to experience conventions I normally can't go to because I can't afford to go travel to Gen Con, for example.
Right.
So like this weekend I did a virtual booth and I'm a perk sponsor for Con of Champions. I've done Kobold Con, Zoe Con, just to name a couple.
Yeah.
And it's super fun. I chat with people on my little Discord channel and yeah.
Do you have your own Discord?
Oh, that I do. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
I also have one of those. It's called the Red Knight Inn.
Okay. You'll have to link me after this. I'll put it in the description.
Yeah.
Here.
Okay. Pretty much I use it to create DM's Guild products. I do a lot of events, so I usually host Women in Gaming Month every year. Sometimes I do charity events, so I do a lot of organizing there. Sometimes I playtest, sometimes I run one shots. I have a lot of fun like playing other people's DM's Guild work, which is a lot of fun. So it's a really cool little community over there.
That's cool. My wife talks about like there's a Facebook group for women and like
Oh, nice.
not, I think, what is it, the word non-binary or non-binary individuals or something. I don't, sorry, I'm
Oh, that's
not versed on
awesome.
it, but
Yeah.
she always talks about how like it's different than the other D&D Facebook groups and how much she loves it because everyone is so accepting and like
Mhm.
it's just a different vibe. So you said you've worked on 10 projects. What when you released your first one, what is it, and how was it overwhelming? Were you worried about criticism? Like, what was going through your thought process when you released that?
Oh, that's a great question. So my first project was with Micah Watt, which had the two adventures for Undermount and the Lost Chamber. Um, at this time, I was figuring out like what I'm like a homebrew DM, so like
Me
what
too.
I learned a lot of like what you put down in adventures very different than you know what I thought it was. So I'm new and I'm just like, oh, I hope people like it. I hope it's not too terrible.
Right.
So I think I still have that feeling because I'm always improving. I'm always trying to make better projects, and I'm every project I learn something new.
Yeah.
But it was super exciting for me. I I mean I'd been published through Hit Record, but there's just something special about getting published through gaming because I've been a lifelong gamer and I'm very passionate about gaming. So
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I'm a home brewer too. My thing is I'll take like the modules. Descent into Avernus is the first one I've run since Princes of the Apocalypse, and the only reason I did that is because I used to run Adventures League in town, and I found well, Adventures League is just really restrictive for me, so I just quit doing it after a while. I think it would be fun to play in, but to run it for me does not work. And I feel that way when I run any module almost. Like I almost feel too restricted unless it's written in a way that allows you to go off the rails. So yes, I'm a home brewer, but I will read all these modules and stuff and pick like different encounters or different things that inspire me for my home brew. And so that's what I use my stuff for. But yeah, I can't run it straight through.
yeah, and I've noticed like 5e is like their published stuff. They're starting to get more. They have more sandboxy type
Yes.
adventures coming out too. I've noticed, which is pretty cool.
Yeah,
And
like
that's a style I need to learn. So
yeah, like the Water Deep one. I think it
yeah,
just came
Storm
out
King's
too.
Thunder.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I heard Storm King's Thunder is pretty open too. I haven't run that one. I actually got
yeah,
the Acquisitions Incorporated booklet too
oh,
that came
nice,
with that
nice. Yeah.
from going and seeing it in theaters. So that
Oh,
was
okay.
awesome. Yeah, I went and saw it with my friend Jake, who's he's been producing like today he was like producing Gilding Light, which is Satine Phoenix's Twitch
Oh,
and stuff.
okay. Yeah, I've done some stuff with 17. She's
Yeah. So he and I we went and saw that in theaters and we both got the booklets and he brought his son. That was cool.
nice.
But yeah. So so when you started to now, you say you've learned a lot. What is the best advice you have gotten in that whole process that has really upped your game in your opinion?
Hmm. It was a lot of things. I think it's that gig project I had, like they were showing me blind spots I had. I was just like, whoa. So just it could be little things such as like, if you say crate up here, because as a writer, as a creative writer, I'm used to like, oh, you got to use different words so you're not being repetitive.
Yes.
But if you have a crate here in the description, it needs to say crate down here. Don't so
Mhm.
consistency. And I'm kind of learning my spectrum of like, all right, I have NPCs. Are they important enough to be in the front matter or not? And what point do you not put them in there? So that's another thing I've been learning. Another big one is writing high tier adventures. Like, is what you're doing like epic enough to be a tier 3 or 4? And if
Mhm.
you're writing low tier, are you making sure you're not getting too like crazy with it and keeping it tier 1
Right.
level type
Like tier
adventures?
1 would be like village level, right?
Hmm.
And like tier 4 is like cosmic level, right?
Yeah, so I find
Yeah.
myself reading a lot of old adventures, even from TSR days. Like I love Ed Greenwood's adventures. Like the world out there, if someone could put all Ed Greenwood's adventures in a hardcover, I'd purchase that. I
That's
want that.
huge. Like that would be the
I
world's
love his
biggest
stuff.
book.
And there's a lot of other great stuff out there,
Yeah.
but I find myself Like, I've read adventures as a DM to get ideas and inspiration, but now that I'm a writer, I read them more thoroughly and I'm paying attention to different things.
Yeah.
And I read stuff from every edition. I don't just limit myself to certain editions. Like, I think there's pros and cons to each edition, and I'm just trying to take it all in and try my best to like improve as a writer, because there's always room for me to get better no matter how long I've been doing this. So, and I'm new.
Do you dabble outside of D&D and go look at other games too?
I do dabble in history.
Gotcha.
I research a lot of history when I'm exploring games. Like I do video game and I tabletop game, and I think those things influence my gaming, but I don't necessarily like go study other gaming systems while writing for D&D.
Sure.
I usually study history and I look up weird stuff like what are the parts of the key? How are castles built? Because like when we see a castle, we see like the rugged stone, but back in the day, they actually like plastered that over and they had tapestries. And so I find myself looking at that as well as D&D content. So I love history.
That makes sense.
So, yeah.
Have you had the chance to work with someone like Ed Greenwood yet?
Oh, I wish.
You wish? I mean, I think he's kind of attainable.
If he wants to work with me, I'm totally in.
I don't know what his price is, but
so far I've just worked with folks in the DM's Guild community.
Yeah.
The gig thing, it might be an exception, but I can't talk about that, so you'll find out soon.
Understandable.
So but yeah, like maybe one day I'll get good enough, to...
Don't wait too long. You don't want to miss the window of opportunity.
Yeah, Ed Greenwood's awesome. I enjoy listening to his interviews.
I met him a few years back. He
phenomenal.
came to Grand Con. Yeah, so actually I have a world building seminar on my channel that he was talking at. They let me record it. It was like an hour and whatever minutes. But like I want to say even in it, I don't know if it was that one or the one I didn't record, but he talked about like how he got into writing. Like he was I don't know if you've ever heard that.
I haven't. Like I was watching Sages and Mages recently.
Yeah.
So
he so it sounds like when he started with like he found like adult like magazines or something as a child or adult books or something. And so he was like, ooh. And so then like that's like what got him into writing. So these like romance scenes and stuff, but a little bit more crude than romance,
Yeah, and I heard he's really inspired, like when creating Forgotten Realms, really inspired by like Merlin and like that stuff. And I also enjoyed that stuff as a kid, so I can appreciate that about his writing. And
Ed's awesome. Ed is an awesome guy. When I met him, I was volunteering, and I volunteered for the max hours, and so I was in they had like a refreshment room. And I'm in there, and I knew he was going to be at the convention, and I'm getting like a little tiny bottle of water, and I turned around, and he like walks in the room, and I was like, "Yay." Oh, like because I was about to like go sit down, and then like
Master of the Realms,
and he's over there like picking out. I don't even think he picked out. He had someone with him, a younger guy who was like getting his refreshments for him and stuff. So I sat down like I was going to, and I just didn't say a word at all, and they talked to each other literally right across me, and I just was like, but then like throughout the weekend I kept running across him, and so finally I talked to him, and he was extremely nice. He signed my 5e monster manual and my 5e starter set. That was the weekend that the monster manual came out too.
Oh, how about that?
Yeah, it was perfect. And he signed it on the red dragon. This is not an accurate depiction of me or something.
That's amazing.
He's definitely a cool
wealth
person.
of knowledge. I hope I'm lucky enough to get to work with someone that knowledgeable, so I can learn to be a better writer. So
you'll get a lot of opportunities, especially with how hard you're working. It sounds like I can't imagine putting out like one project a year, let alone 10. Whew, and 120 pages. My goodness. Whew. That's a lot to be proud of.
Oh, thank you. I love it. It's fun. It keeps me happy.
So I mean, do you ever feel like because of the time commitment, do you ever not regret it, but do you wish you had more time to game? Have you thought about scaling that back a little bit?
Oh, that's a great question. So actually, I have. So I've had a wild year 2020. So I was like piling on the projects. I ended up having emergency spinal surgery this January.
Oh no.
So I was like, I ended up having to cut out a ton of projects and to recover. And then I got COVID-19 in March and like got
Oh
ridiculously
wow.
ill with pneumonia.
So
My
you're
kid
like the
got
first
sick.
person I know that actually had it.
Oh, it's horrible. Like I felt like I had an anvil in my chest. Like I was doing dishes and I was like,
Oh no.
like I was so out of breath. It was horrible. It was like the worst I've ever been sick.
Yeah.
But just between those two things, like I've scaled stuff down. I'm starting to, I'm still taking on a lot, but
Hmm.
I try to manage my time. Like I understand like self care and stuff like that, so I make sure
Yeah.
to block out time for family time,
Yes.
and
Get enough rest. You're a
yeah,
mom. You don't. I know you don't. Don't lie.
I'm busy. Moms are busy, but kind of where I live is just ridiculously hot outside, and now it's
Yeah.
quarantine, so it's like
Yeah.
I don't really have much else to do but to write adventures and
Yep.
stuff like that. But I try to, when the fall time hits and I can, when the COVID thing blows by, hopefully the next year or two, I make sure to take out time to go hiking and hopefully I
Oh,
can get
good.
back into rock climbing and this stuff I love doing.
Yeah.
So I'm really good at kind of blocking my time and
Good.
figuring out
Good.
my limits.
Yeah.
So
Do you like schedule out or sorry, not schedule out. How when you're working on a project like that, do you give yourself firm deadlines so you make sure that you finish it then? Because that's the
oh
only
yeah,
way I
you
can
have to.
imagine getting it
You
done.
have to.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I try to set my deadlines earlier than when it's due,
Hmm.
just in case like I'll set it like a week earlier, just in case something nuts happens, like I have to go to the doctor or,
Yeah.
this other project needs some emergency thing last minute.
Hmm.
So I try to keep those things in mind. Um, but yeah, just time management is an absolute must.
Hmm.
So I have, uh, I keep a calendar on my computer. I have Airtable, which is this really great like kind of task management tool.
Is that like a
Um,
Trello kind of thing?
it's not a Kanban board or however you say that,
Yeah.
but it's kind of like a scheduler, and it
Hmm.
lets you like put in all your projects and your deadlines and notes and
Hmm.
stuff like that, and it kind of helps me
Nice.
make sure nothing slips through the cracks.
Right.
So yeah.
That's important. Yeah, I used to have a pretty good CRM software when I did real estate that was like that. And it'd be like, all right, you said you were gonna follow up with this person 8 days later. Follow up, and these are
Hmm.
your notes, and here's the client information. Like, I
Yep.
loved it. It
Yep.
was
So I keep
expensive
it keep
though.
a detailed calendar.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying to
So
get better. I'm trying to use Google calendars more. Just because you can like do stuff on the computer from it, you can do stuff on your phone with it, and I'm trying to use Google Docs and stuff more as well.
very nice.
So
Yeah, there's a lot of great tools out
yeah,
there.
for
So
sure. Uh, what has been your absolute favorite or most proud product you have put out? Uh oh.
uh, I don't know. I get. Oh, that's hard to say because like I've worked with all these great people who are super talented, and I feel like it's not just my work; it's everybody's work in a project. Like
Yeah.
we did this together to make something beautiful. I love being on Michael Watt's teams. He makes beautiful products. He's a great team lead. He's fun. He makes
Yeah.
jokes. He's super welcoming. And he's one of the veteran DM writers, so he kind of does like the smaller old school style of doing projects like when I first started.
Mhm.
And it's nice to take a break from the bigger ones because the bigger
Right.
ones it's like it's so many people and it's fun, but there's something special about those small
Yeah.
projects and the
I
Facebook
gotcha.
chats and the things that come with that. So,
Right.
and it's exciting, like through the veil tales of the Feywild. It's just exciting to be like, okay, I led a thing finally,
Right.
and everyone worked so hard on it. And I'm just proud of everyone who contributed and the beautiful art and the maps and the hard work and effort, the editors, everyone. So I'm proud of everyone.
Yeah.
It's
I
not
hear you.
just me; it's all of Elises.
Right.
So
So this was your first lead then, the Feywild one.
yeah, and it's surprisingly large project. Usually first projects are oh, I'm gonna do a one shot or
Right.
I'm gonna do a little trinket collection. So I kind of took on it, grew into like a thing. And
Yeah.
I didn't want to say no, you can't join my project. So I'm just like,
Right.
everyone come in and let's see what we can do.
That's
So
funny.
so it's been fun, and I've learned so much doing it, and hopefully I'll have better production and better products coming
Yeah.
out as I go along.
Right.
So yeah.
So normally I ask this in the beginning. It makes more
Mhm.
sense there, but why not? I'll just ask it now. What got you into gaming in the first place? Like, how old were you? Like, who did it? Like, what's your story?
Yeah. So I was 5, and my parents were like, "Merry Christmas, NES," like the old cartridge games, and
Yes.
we were like, "Yes!" Like I lived out in the middle of nowhere. We had one neighbor as a kid, but they lived so far away you couldn't see their house, and so that's all we did, me and my sis. And like some of my cousins and friends had the Super NES, Grams had Atari, and
Mm-hmm.
after that, I loved it. So I had most of the consoles coming out. We had the PlayStations, the Xboxes, the Sega
Yeah.
Dreamcast, all that stuff growing up. No, a PC game. My friend Phil, back home, got me into tabletop gaming. So I started out with Munchkin in my early 20s,
Okay.
which led to like Settlers of Catan and Fantasy
Mm-hmm.
Flight and Stefan Feld and Terra Mystica um, and yeah, I'd played D&D and 3.5 and Vampires the Masquerade in high school. Like I
Okay.
didn't play in a really long campaign or anything, but I'd
Sure.
drop into games and
You
you know,
dabbled.
yeah, I loved elves back. Of course, I loved elves back then. I was
My
a huge
daughter's obsessed with
fan.
elves. My wife loves Azamar. That's like her favorite.
Yeah, that's my
Because they're
favorite
pretty.
now. I love the planar stuff now, the
Yeah.
Genasi. But back then, I read all fantasy books. I like in high school. I loved Merlin and I loved Forgotten Realms and Dragonlance, and I just like love that stuff.
Right.
So that influenced the characters I built back then.
Yeah.
Years back, a friend introduced me to 4E,
Mm-hmm.
and I played 5E, and I played in a comic book store at like a ridiculously large table. Like there was
Right.
like over 10 players. It was super fun. We were all friends. We ended up playing like 2 games a week together. Like one was at the game store, one was at a friend's house.
Yeah.
Sometimes we'd play D&D to like whatever in the morning, and it was just like napping in a back room somewhere. And like,
I feel robbed.
so
I never got
it was,
that like marathon session, like,
oh,
hey,
so
let's
fun.
play into the wee hours of the morning. I never got to do that.
Yeah, so it was fun. And then eventually I began DMing, and then I got involved in this just by being involved in the online community. And
Yep.
I do all kinds of stuff. So now I'm doing gaming conventions and setting up like game stores are like, can we sell your stuff? Will you run events here? And like
That's
pulling out
so
flyers and when COVID-19's not going on.
so when
Yeah, it's like my
COVID's
life.
done, are you planning on hitting up in person, like a ton of in person conventions then?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Yeah.
Anything that's in my area. My kids
You're
go to public
central.
school,
Everything's in your
so
area. You can go coast to coast from where you're at.
yeah, and hopefully one day I can save up and go to Gen Con or
Yeah.
something. That's the dream. Gen Con and maybe D&D Live. Go to that. That'd be fun.
Yeah, out in
Um,
California, Los Angeles, I think, right?
I think so. I'm not sure, but I'd love to
She
go.
just write,
One day.
the guys over there and just say, hey, I want to come to D&D Live. I put out over 10 products a year, so I'd like to come, and you need to fly me out. Maybe they'll
Please
do it.
invite me. I hope I'm good enough to be there.
Right.
Oh, I wish.
Awesome. All right. Well, that about sums up my time. But I really appreciate you coming on. You
Yeah,
are
thanks for
awesome.
having me. It was fun.
You are always welcome to come back. If you ever have something you want to promote or whatever, feel free to reach out and we can try to squeeze you on to talk about it.
You're always welcome to PM. I'm very accessible, so
Yeah. You've been really great to communicate with. You've been very open and about what's going on and everything, and I appreciate that. I've had some guests where we've lined things up and then like it's like, hey, are you going to be available tomorrow? And then I don't hear anything for like a week, so I gotta like hey, I'm on here by myself.
Yeah,
or I
yeah.
cancel, you know.
I try to stay on top of my messaging, and
You're good.
yeah, and like I don't care like podcasts big or small, like
Yeah.
I'm interested. So I love supporting the community the best I
Yeah.
can.
And it's fun to talk RPGs, right?
Oh yeah, anytime. That's my favorite thing to talk about.
Right.
So
Yep. Same here. Awesome. So with that, is there anything you want to plug before we
oh
end the
sure.
stream?
I just ordered my print copy for Through the Veil Tales of the Feywild for a media review. So hopefully that'll be coming out in the next month or two,
Okay.
depending on how quickly shipping is and everything looks good. And be on the lookout for future volumes. Hopefully this summer we'll do a cover reveal. We had Sarah Somatic do our front cover for that. My most recent release is a Pyromaniac Press DM's Guild project with Michael Watt. That's Blackstaff's Tome of Wizardry, so it's packed full of wizard subclasses and a ton of new spells. The layout's super beautiful. The team did a really great job with it. So check that out on the DM's Guild. You can also find me at D&D Elise on Twitter and Facebook. And yeah, that's it.
And I will be
So
sure to
thank you for having
link
me.
to your DM's Guild account and
Oh, wonderful.
your
I'll send some
Twitter.
links.
So,
Fabulous.
awesome.
Great.
Awesome. So thank you for watching. This was Master the Game. I am Juice. This was D&D Elise. Game on.
All right, we'll see you. Bye.
Awesome.